The radio crackled to life as I shifted down, easing my truck around the next bend. Static, then a distorted voice barely discernible over the white noise, filtered through the speakers, but it was too garbled to make out. I glanced at the clock. It was just after midnight, and I was still at least 50 miles from the nearest town. The road ahead was empty, stretching on like a ribbon disappearing into the dark. I'd been on these desolate backroads for a while now, and I knew I should stop soon, but there wasn't a single rest stop or gas station out here. Just empty fields on either side of the road. Occasionally, the headlights caught glimmers of shapes off to the side, but it was hard to tell if they were trees, rocks, or just figments of my imagination. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake the creeping fatigue. Then my headlights picked up something ahead, something lying across the road. I slowed down, easing my foot off the gas as I got closer. At first, I thought it might be a fallen tree or maybe a deer, but as I drew nearer, I realized it was neither. It was a strange, pale, almost translucent object sprawled across the asphalt, shimmering faintly in my high beams. I squinted, leaning closer to the windshield. It looked like some kind of skin. A horrible thought struck me. It looked like a snake shed skin, but far too large, easily 8 or 9 feet long. The edges were ragged, and it looked damp, as if it had only recently been discarded. My heart was pounding as I rolled the truck to a stop. The engine idled as I sat there, staring at it, not quite sure what to make of it. Against every sensible instinct, I opened the door and stepped out. The night air was cold, biting, and still. As I approached the thing, the smell hit me, a sickly, organic odor, thick and cloying. It was worse than any roadkill I'd ever encountered. I gagged, bringing my hand up to cover my mouth, but I kept moving forward, my curiosity overriding my common sense. I crouched down, inspecting the torn edges. They looked rough, almost like they'd been clawed open. I straightened up, looking around. Silence pressed in on all sides. Just as I turned to head back to the truck, a soft rustling came from the field beside me. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. "Hello!" I called out, my voice sounding far too loud in the empty night. Nothing, just silence. I took a step back toward the truck, eyes scanning the darkness. There, just beyond the reach of the headlights, something moved. I squinted, trying to make it out. The shape was tall, thin, and hunched over, like a shadow bending and shifting. My hands were slick with sweat as I fumbled for the flashlight in my jacket pocket. I flicked it on and aimed it toward the field. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on the figure. For a second, I thought it was just a man, but as it straightened, I realized how horribly wrong I was. Its limbs were too long, bending at odd angles, and its skin had the same translucent quality as the strange hide I'd seen on the road. Its face, if you could call it that, was smooth, featureless, save for 2 black pits where I should have been. The creature recoiled from the light, letting out a guttural, high-pitched noise that sent a chill down my spine. It lurched forward, moving on all fours with a terrifying, spider-like grace, skittering toward the edge of the light. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet as I scrambled to the truck. I didn't dare take my eyes off it. I could see it still, crouching just at the edge of the headlights, watching me, those empty eyes seeming to drink in the light hungrily. Finally, I managed to wrench open the driver's side door and climb in, slamming it shut behind me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key into the ignition, but somehow I managed to start the engine. As I threw the truck into gear and hit the gas, I caught a glimpse of the creature in my side mirror. It was standing again, watching me, its head tilted slightly to the side in a disturbingly human gesture. I tore down the road, my heart racing. The thing didn't chase me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was still watching me, that it would follow, maybe even find me later. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see it running behind a truck, keeping pace with me. After about 10 miles, I finally dared to breathe a little easier. The road was still empty, but at least the unsettling, oppressive silence seemed to have lifted a bit. I tried to rationalize what I'd seen. Maybe it was just an animal, something sick or injured. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. I turned on the radio, desperate for something to fill the silence, to distract me. The static was gone, replaced by a song, something slow and eerie that I didn't recognize. The singer's voice was distorted, warped in a way that made my skin crawl. I reached to change the station, but the knob wouldn't budge. The voice grew louder, clearer, as if it were coming from right beside me. Then I heard something else, a soft rustling from the passenger seat. I turned, my breath catching in my throat. The creature was there, crouched in the seat, its twisted limbs folded up, its head cocked at that unnatural angle. Its eyes were fixed on me, black and endless. Panic surged through me, and I jerked the wheel hard to the right, sending the truck skidding off the road. It crashed through the brush, slamming to a stop as it hit a tree. The impact jolted me forward, and for a few moments, everything went black. When I came to, the truck was silent, the radio dead. I tasted blood and realized I'd bitten my lip in the crash. The passenger seat was empty, and for a brief, blissful moment, I thought it was over. But then I heard the soft scratching coming from above, from the roof of the truck. I stayed completely still, hardly daring to breathe. The scratching turned into a slow, deliberate tapping, like fingers drumming against the metal. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it would stop, praying I'd wake up. The tapping continued, rhythmic and taunting, until finally, mercifully, it stopped. I opened my eyes, barely daring to hope, and turned to look out the window. The creature's face was pressed up against the glass, inches from mine, its mouth stretched into a wide, inhuman grin. And then the tapping began again.